Video games are a highly growing and ever-prospering market and media center. They fill people with joy and an easy way to escape their everyday lives. And because of that, they can be within the realm of fantasy, not the realm of reality. Things don't always have to make sense, and it's okay. But sometimes it can go too far. People talk about a game, for instance, like Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and they think that Infinity Ward and Activision have lost their creative touch and have gone too far. Some people even go as far as to say that they're copying things like Halo Reach. And maybe they have lost it, and maybe they are copying things. But they still manage to sell millions of copies every year. Why is that? I decided to try to find an answer to that by looking at some of the best and some of the worst of the Call of Duty franchise and what it has to offer. So, let's dive on in. One of my favorite things about the Call of Duty games is all the guns that they come with. They all look so different, they all feel different, and they're just so damn realistic. If, by realistic, you mean in the same way that these are realistic. Now, I understand that video games are video games, but come on, people. Let's just forget about the fact for a second that people do 360, 420, Mountain Dew, Dorito, headshot, no-scopes, and act like that just happens in a firefight to any capacity, but for real. The guns all seem the same, especially when they all have the same camo on and it takes half or sometimes a full magazine to kill a human being. Well, okay. There are robot soldiers now, which just pushes on the realism so well, might I add. Hell, the only things that are really real are the rocket launchers and the fists. Now that right there is some prime weaponry. I mean, killing someone with a single swing? I've done that 5, maybe 6 times. It feels just like a video game. And whenever I blow someone up with an RPG, I often find that it's just like the Call of Duty games. It's great. It's a great thing. Really, it is. Next up on the list is the Killstreaks. Now, this is more of a personal vendetta, I'll admit it, but with these Killstreaks, I can never tell if it's meant for the kills I get or the number of times I get killed. I mean, 9 out of 10 times I can't survive long enough to get a high enough kill streak, and when I do, it's a waste. And if I'm lucky, I get a care package, and if I'm really lucky, it's ammo, but more often than not, it's not. A man can dream, though. A man can dream. Next up on the list is the maps. Now, some of the maps in Call of Duty are the most beloved and well-remembered in all video games. Terminal, Rust, Nuketown, Hijacked, Nuketown 2065, Skyjack, Nuck 3 Town. There's so much variation. I mean, the fans really do sure love to switch it up. One of my favorite things about Call of Duty is the perks. They give you an edge over the other players and tend to make the game just generally easier to play, especially the ones that cheat the system like Hardline. I love that one. But they have some really good ones, like Dead Silence and Awareness. Oh, and who could forget about Flak Jacket? You essentially become invulnerable to rockets and other explosives all the time.
All the time. All the time.
Now, one of the greater pieces of the Call of Duty franchise is the story. The story of any game is a necessity to really roping people in my opinion. It makes you feel, it makes you connect with the characters, and you get hooked, wanting to know what comes next every time after every minute. Which is why the best example of this, as you can imagine, would be Call of Duty Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, and Black Ops 3. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of the best examples of this would be Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, really all of the Modern Warfares, and World at War. They were just amazing stories. But you would be wrong. Wrong! Some of the greatest examples of this would be Call of Duty Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3. Hell, Black Ops 3 was so good I didn't even finish it. I was just so engrossed in the war between robots and humans. Man versus Decepticons? Man versus Arnold Schwarzenegger? You didn't really think I would go through this without acknowledging, of course, the greatest part of all Call of Duty that has managed to stretch across all of the games for years. I would be, of course, referring to the community. You have to recognize the community. Never before has there been such a welcoming and loving community who accepts and tolerates not just the new players, but each other with open arms. And they're so cool, too. I mean, who else has names like XX, MLG, Pothead, XX with 3s and 0s and shit? Nobody. Everyone else is just simple, plain names with no X's unless it's part of the word and no numbers at all. That's just boring. Call of Duty is always able to come up with new and successful ideas every game. For instance, the success of Call of Duty Zombies was no unknown thing. So, what's the best way to jump from that to something else new and fun? Aliens!
And when it isn't aliens, zombies with robot suits. And who could forget about America's sweetheart Ghosts mode? What? That's not a thing. Then what was Call of Duty Ghosts about? Really? Really? As admittedly yet another personal gripe, I tend to notice a distinct lack of multiplayer vehicles. Sure, you've got your destroyed or locked up vehicles sitting around, but you can't drive anything anymore. Not like Call of Duty 3, now that was a game. They had everything right, especially the rocket launchers. Now this, minus lack of vehicles, which I recognize as a me thing, is plain and simple the greatest game ever. This thing had it all. A killer story, amazing multiplayer, great maps, weapons, killstreaks,
Tactical nuke incoming!
perks, and a third mode that stayed original, Spec Ops. Everything about this game was fabulous, and nobody has made anything close to its magnificence since. I am, of course, referring to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I don't really think any game has gotten that kind of warfare and multiplayer correct since. Finally, there is a saving grace of all Call of Duty games that I would even say goes above Modern Warfare 2 just barely. And I am speaking of Zombies mode. Zombies is the pinnacle of gaming to me. The game type alone leaves you so many options. Whether you want to pursue story or just see how far you can make it, it's fun as dicks to play. You can play it alone, with friends, or with random people, and you're still almost guaranteed to have fun. Sure, they've had their slip-ups, who hasn't? People still love it, and it's worth buying the game just to play that, if nothing else. This, and this alone, is the reason I love to play Call of Duty. You really killed it, Treyarch. You really did. Looking past all the negatives, and because of Zombies, COD 3, and Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty gets 5 Eddie Murphy sketches out of 5. So long as you play nothing but those aspects of Call of Duty.
But looking on a more serious note, people complain and people whine when things aren't like the way they used to be. The truth of the matter is, if Call of Duty went back to all the wars before and all the past events, it might hit that nostalgia factor, but people wouldn't want to play it. They'd get bored. Ultimately, it's not what gamers want these days. If games like Destiny and Titanfall and even Halo are any distinction or any kind of clue, what people want is games from the future. They want to look forward, not backwards. Even if they think that they do, that could very well just be the nostalgia talking. But that wears off. And people want to move forward. I mean, that means that sure, a lot of people are complaining, like a lot. But there are even more that aren't complaining, and maybe even some of the people that are still going to buy the game because it's Call of Duty. And maybe Call of Duty is just branching out to a different audience now. Maybe the people who are complaining have just grown out of it. Maybe they're going for the kind of younger audience that wants that future thing, that has grown up with other video games like that as compared to other people who've grown up with video games like Call of Duty 3 and Modern Warfare 2, games from the past. Or maybe they're just going for a completely new audience entirely, just an overgeneralized new section of people that want that kind of game. Clearly they're hitting it, and they're going to continue to do so. As a culture, we've gotten so picky and so attached and almost even hypocritical from what we want out of games. Maybe Call of Duty isn't the kind of game it used to be, but what game series is that's managed to stay around this long? Games change, people change, and so do interests. Maybe Call of Duty isn't what it used to be, and maybe that just means it's not for you, but that doesn't mean that you can't go back and play the old ones. Blow the dust off your 360, pop in a disc, and go have some fun. Or you could give it a chance. I mean, who knows? It might not be what any of us expect. It might actually be a good game. It's worth taking a risk. No risk, no reward. After all, I mean, how bad could it be? If Call of Duty went back to all the wars that used to happen, that doesn't make any sense. Gamers want that new future vibe. That doesn't make sense. After all, I mean, how bad could it be? This is major time to grind. Okay.